Hello and welcome back to WD18, the Watford fan channel, and welcome to another episode in the Speaking Up series, a series where I'll be speaking to different individuals in the Watford community in order to raise awareness for certain social issues and in particular mental health. My name is Sam and today I'm joined by a very special guest, Kate Lewers from Women of Watford. First of all, Kate, I mean, you're joining us from where are you at the moment?
I'm in Hong Kong at the moment.
Hong Kong. Yeah, in Hong Kong. Very nice of you to join us, considering the time. It's what you said. It's midnight for you there, and at the moment, time of recording, it's nearly 6 o'clock here. So, thank you very much for joining us. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a real sort of privilege to be asked to come and join you. So yeah, I'm a little bit tired, but no, I'm good, and I'm really excited to be here and talking with you today.
Good. So you launched the Women of Watford scheme, WOW, as it's more commonly known. So before we start off, do you just want to explain a little bit more about that?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, so we launched officially in June, I think it was. We decided sort of the pre-season was the best time for us. And so, as you said, we are Women of Watford FC. So we are a supporters group at Watford FC for female football fans, for women who love Watford and allies. So people who may not be identified as women, I suppose, but would like to see more women in football. And we came about after the discussions earlier this year of women's safety and how it might feel being a woman going to games and not knowing where you are, but also just as I felt that there was a need for a community of women where we could just sit and chat about football and feel like this is a place for us, a safe place for us.
Yeah, no, that sounds really interesting. I mean, I'm just thinking, because I've read a couple of articles that you've written and seen a couple of your tweets on social media. What caused you to, really drive this forward? Because obviously, it's all very well talking about this sort of thing, saying we need to improve it, but a lot of the time we don't see any action taken. Have you had a lot of personal experiences at the ground, or what really drove you to create this movement?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess it goes back to March this year, where myself and two other female fans were on Hive Live, and we were just there to sort of chat about being a female fan and what it's like to be a woman in football. And again, firstly, something that just really struck me was it was just really nice to be with a group of women talking about football. But one of the questions that Emma asked in particular was being a woman at an away day, and how does that differ for you? And I suddenly had this dawning realization that I've never been to an away game by myself, whereas I would have no issues with going to Vicarage Road by myself. Yeah. And that's wrong because my brother, who is 2 years younger than me, has been going to away games by himself for years. And so there's something wrong there, surely. So that sort of got the cogs whirring. And then that was the really, really hard week where a lot of women were sharing their stories about feeling unsafe on the streets on social media. And I did just that, but sort of following on from the chat that I'd had on Hive Live, and just said, actually, this is the reason I don't go to away games by myself, because I could be followed, because the admin for me is a lot more than it would be for a man, because I have to look up car parks and well-lit routes and potential safe spaces to run if I was being followed, and just sort of the overall paranoia. That's not normal. And so tweeted about that, and the club got in touch, which was brilliant, actually, because it kind of just showed me I've chosen the right club.
From other people we've spoken in the series, a lot of people say, like, if any club was going to be the one to, help out with this sort of thing, it's always Watford. I mean, the original family club, that sort of thing. Yeah. So sorry, as you were saying.
Yeah, no, you're fine. But it was just that sort of solidifying moment of going, okay, well, what can we do and how can we help? And in a really great way, lots of people had got in touch on Twitter, and men and women, saying, these are my ideas, this is what we could do to help women or get women to more away games and all these kind of things. So sort of presented lots of ideas to the club, and we sort of decided the starting point would be a female supporters group. So yeah, I guess so. My personal experience sort of in the stands actually hasn't been all that negative, because amongst Watford fans, I never feel unsafe, but it's actually that interim bit of going to and from ground that's the sort of the worry, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I suppose as well, there's also an element. I mean, I'm not really. I mean, I can't talk from your perspective, but at least where I sit, I know everyone around me who sits around me. A lot of them you just become mates with over the years, so you feel much more safe. And it's more when you're, going out the ground and you're seeing everyone coming out. A lot of people probably a bit drunk or annoyed if Watford lose. That sort of thing. That's where I can imagine it does become a bit, don't feel too safe. But I mean, something that I personally took a massive interest in and that I've seen it's growing more and more by the day is the Her Game 2 movement.
Yes.
Which is getting bigger a lot, and it's doing really, really well. I'm not sure if you got any involvement in that, but generally, do you think do you think it's important? I mean, are there any other women's supporters groups that you work with, and do you think there generally needs to be more at the moment in football?
I am crying out for more female supporter groups. To my knowledge, and I am so happy to be corrected if this is wrong, but to my knowledge, we are the only female supporters group in the Premier League. And again, please correct me if I'm wrong, but to my knowledge, the only other one that I really know of is the Lincoln Lady Imps. And so I've been stalking them online to see what they do. And I have been in touch. So we are an associate member of the FSA, the Football Supporters Association, and chatting to Anwar there, who runs sort of Fans for Diversity and all those kind of things, just really trying to gain momentum, I suppose, because I went into this probably a bit naively, thinking if we could have 50 members by the end of the 2021-2022 season, that's a success. And we're currently sitting with 130 members in a Facebook group, over 630 followers on Twitter. The need for this is so great. And if it's this great at Watford, then it's this great everywhere else, as far as I'm concerned. I would love to have more women's supporters groups about. I'm sort of chatting to quite a few, like the Proud words, the Proud Hornets. I've been chatting to a lot, and equally sort of the LGBTQ plus groups at other Premier League clubs who are probably a little bit more established.
What are your main aims to get out of this? Because obviously it's a lot of work for you. I think most sane people can see it's necessary to have this sort of thing in football at the moment. So what are your main aims to get out of this?
Yeah, so we have three main aims. I'm sorry, clearly the jet lag is like more.
No, don't worry about it.
So the first is to give women more of a voice within the club. The second is to encourage and promote a more diverse fan base. And then the third is to inspire and empower future generations of female fans. Because that's something I feel like wasn't there when I was growing up. Finding my place at Watford was hard. So I'm 30 years old now, but started going when I was 9. Didn't really enjoy it for the first couple of years. And it wasn't actually until I went to uni, so it was at the stage that you're at now, that I realised Vicarage Road had become a home of some sort.
Yeah.
But like I say, it was, I think, because it was so male dominated and orientated at the time, you had to walk a lot further to find women's toilets than you did men's, little things like that. And those kind of things have changed over the last few years. But yeah, I would like this group to sort of set a precedent and say to little girls, you belong here too, and this could be your future. You could see yourself playing at the Vic, or working in the Vic, or anything like that.
Yeah, and just on that as well, I mean, I feel like another thing that's grown massively is the women's team in the last few years. They seem to be getting better by the season. I think they just got promoted. Some, really good characters in there as well. We got another one coming onto the channel in a couple of weeks. So I mean, do you follow the women's team a lot as well? Do you go to games? Are you able to get down there a lot?
Yeah, so I'm actually hoping. So the women are playing at the Vicarage Road
Liverpool,
on the 4th,
I think, isn't it?
Of September.
Yeah.
So I'm actually hoping we can have a bit of a wow outing, and that can be our first sort of let's all go to a game together thing. So I'm currently in correspondence with the club, because that is something I'd really like. Women supporting women, I think, is really powerful, and that goes for any way of anything in life. That cliche thing of empowered women empower women, but it's true. And I think a lot of the time in my past, I've been pitted against other women. I went to an all-girls school, and it was all about competing with one another and all this sort of the infighting and the cattiness that girls are sort of renowned for. And actually it really feels that we're at a time where there's a movement coming where actually women are going, no, stop this. I want to support other women. I want to champion them. And so if we can do that by going to the women's games as well as the men's games, I'd love it.
That sounds really good. And I mean, obviously the center of, you know, this series that we're doing, the Speaking Up series, is mental health. And I'm just wondering, generally, being a woman that goes to, as you say, I'd say still male orientated football stadiums, but you know, you see a lot more men than women at games, and I think that is changing, but the reality is there still are more men. How does that impact on your mental health in terms of, you know, you mentioned at times leaving grounds and away games you might feel unsafe? Has it ever, you know, put you down at all, that sort of thing?
Yeah, a little bit. And it, for me, it's anxiety mixed with a bit of paranoia. So for example, on the opening game of the season, I went to Walkabout in Watford for the first time ever before the game, because the Man United game was on and we were going to watch the game before going to Vicarage Road. And I sat there, I just felt really uncomfortable. And I was like, this is weird, because people are wearing Watford shirts. And there are a few women, but they're in bigger groups and they know people, and I'm not. And that's quite scary. And I know Watford and I know where to go. And there is something in that I am probably a slightly more anxious individual than some other women. There's another lady called Fran, who is sort of at the forefront of WOW with me. And she's a bit older, and she goes to all these away games by herself. And she's, I think tougher with wanting, I don't know what the word is, but more confident probably. And I would love to be like that. But I just kind of can't, because being in those kind of areas, and there is something that just resonates or is stuck with me of just large groups of men together and nobody challenging their behavior is sometimes quite a difficult thing. And then if you are the one to challenge them, how's that going to go for you? And actually often it's just overthinking, because chances are everyone in Walkabout that day was lovely, but it's past experiences of mine as a woman in crowded spaces with a lot of men that make me feel the way that I felt that day. And that's not something that men often experience, so they don't have that to relate to. And so then trying to explain that to my boyfriend, who was with me at the time, he's like, why do you feel uncomfortable? It's like, because I felt uncomfortable in situations like this before and it's not gone well for me. So
yeah, I mean, that's something that at least I would say to people watching this, because a lot of people I think would say, you know, you're being overreacting, that sort of thing, or the threat's not as real as you think. But at least as a male, you know, we can't relate to this. And I think if so many women are seeing a need for this at the moment, as you say, you've got double the amount of members that you thought you would have at this stage. We're seeing so many movements growing at the moment, and clearly it is necessary, and all we can do really is get behind them. And just as a kind of, you know, your closing words, if we're going to call them that, what would your last message be to Watford fans and whoever's watching this video?
Yeah, I guess to the female fans, it's that you belong, there is a space for you. And to those who are not female, but maybe you have females in your life, like WOW is here for so many people. You know, if you consider yourself an ally, or if you are I had a dad contact me the other day and just say, is this for dads as well? Because I'd love my girls to come along. Yes, this is for, I mean, Watford FC is a club for all. Yeah. And that's something I really think we should sort of take our roots from, I suppose, and that's what I want WOW to be. It's for all who want to see more women in football, that women belong, there is a space for you, and I've got sharp elbows, so I will create that space. And
where can everyone find you? What's your Twitter, Facebook, that sort of thing?
So if you have Facebook, we have a Facebook group, which if you just search Women of Watford FC, you can request to join. We'll have a little look at your profile just to make sure everyone's legit. I don't want weirdos in the group. We are on Twitter, which is @WowWatfordFC. And then we also have a mailing list. So if you don't want to be sort of active on social media, you can just send us an email. It's womenofwatfordfc@gmail.com. So it's all one word, Women of Watford FC. And we send out a monthly e-newsletter at the end of every month.
Perfect. Kate, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a pleasure. Make sure to go and check out the sites that Kate just spoke about. We'll be back for another episode of Speaking Up very soon. Thanks again, Kate. Make sure to like, subscribe, turn on the post notifications, and we'll see you all soon for another video.